Teaching Holocaust to the Facebook generation. And in that already, I assume there's a difference between the Facebook generation to everybody else that's been there so far. And that's questionable as its own. So feel free to debate that. But before we start, in order, I want to try to capture, target where they're sitting here. So if we're just going to go quickly around the room, if you can say who you are, maybe where you're from. So I'll start. I'm Udi, and if you haven't read, I'm the Community and Formal Education Shaliach in New Zealand. And in relation to the Holocaust, I was working in Yad Vashem for several years, working with groups that went to Poland, outside of Yad Vashem and inside. Now in New Zealand with March of the Living, I was teaching Holocaust in high schools in Israel for several years and had some experience with that in North America as well. So that's a little bit about me.
My name is Nikki and I teach Hebrew to middle and high school at Mariah in Sydney.
I'm Mariah and I teach Jewish youth philosophy and Shalat studies.
I'm Emma and I'm at Mount Scopus and I teach religion, society and Jewish studies in secondary school.
I'm Sylvia Haber and I'm at Mount Scopus and I do what she does.
I'm Ruth Nazarov. I'm at Mount Scopus. I teach English and religion and society.
Me, I'm Megan Residency and I teach Jewish studies and Jewish history at Masada High School in Sydney.
Hi, I'm Lisa Cohen. I also teach Jewish studies and Jewish high school.
I'm Michelle Friedman and I teach kindergarten at Masada Primary School. So I'm out of school not early
I'm Regina and I'm
Aaron and Immerman from Mariah College, Jewish history and Holocaust studies in particular. Mariah, did I say right?
Yeah.
Lisa Inberg from the Board of Jewish Education in Sydney.
Michelle Schomburg from the same place.
I'm Dina Shievich. I'm a preschool teacher at Yeshiva College, and my parents were Holocaust survivors, so that's why I'm here.
I'm Philip Roberts, Principal of Mount Sinai College, Sydney.
I'm Jude Berman and I'm from New Zealand as well and I work in a formal education, Jewish education.
Ian Samuel, Chairman of Hasbara for the Zionist Federation.
Julie Blaschke from ZFA.
Greg Blaschke, I'm the Treasurer of the ZFA.
Okay, so first, there's a lot of history teachers here, that's good. So I'll begin with saying that what I'll show today is not history. Because as somebody that studied history in the university for many years and taught and so on, history is factual and it's not stories. And I know that's also debatable, but that's how they do it in Israel, at least. And the Holocaust, and the way I try to present it, is not a factual representation of the Holocaust, but actually more of how morals, stories, and so on that we read into or read out from the Holocaust. And I want to start with a scene from X-Men that from 2000 is really when people start writing later about a new approach to the Holocaust with youth, that was a pivotal point. And I think if you don't know the scene while you see it, then you'll understand why.
Do you want me to turn off the lights?
Yes. So when this, thank you. So when this, of course, scene was first in the movies, that was the first time a popular movie used the Holocaust, the first time a big popular movie, and not something that is a small feature, used the Holocaust not as a Holocaust movie, when there's a lot of that, since the 60s, but rather as a tool to start a movie. Okay, we meet with those who've read the comic or have seen the movies. So the villain of X-Men, that's the kid, and he went into a concentration camp, his mother's thing went, that's how he find out he has a power, right? He can move metal using his hands. Later it'll be experimented on, we'll see that in other movies of the X-Men series. He's experimented on in the concentration camp. And the Magneto's moral is never again. We might see it at the end if we'll have time, but the never again becomes from a Jewish motto of we remember, we want to survive, we want a Jewish continuation, and all of those things becomes a theme for a movie. Okay? Not only that, but it's also, he's the bad guy here. Because he thinks it's never again, then he will combat humanity in all sorts of weird ways throughout the X-Men series. Okay? A lot of critics went against, of course, this scene, and there was a big balagan all over the world with relation to this, because people felt that it takes the Holocaust and it's transferring it from something I might even say sanctified, okay, that you cannot talk about unless you talk only about the actual Holocaust, then to something that is trivialized, yes, the Holocaust. And before we'll see other things, I want us to read a piece from a very important book that was written about those matters. I'm not sure there's one for each, so maybe someone can read to share. And this Roger Ebert is trying to conceptualize, is it a good thing or a bad thing? So before we can even start debating it, let's see what Ebert is saying and what Lawrence Burrow is saying. Okay, everybody has something? Who's going to use you to read? Thank you.
One could argue that the Holocaust is not appropriate subject matter for an action movie based on a comic book. But having talked to some X-Men fans, I believe that in their minds the medium is as deep and portentous as, say, Sophie's Choice.
Mm-hmm.
The Holocaust's contemporary repercussions lend themselves to being filmed as action movies. This genre easily accommodates stories about resistance, rescue, suppressing neo-Nazi conspiracies, and tracking down German war criminals. Since 2000, action movies rank as the second most popular genre of Holocaust films. Best known recent Holocaust thrillers were Charlotte Gray, 2001, Uprising, 2001, and The Statement, 2003. In the adaptation of Tom Clancy's The Son of All Fears, 2003, neo-Nazis resort to nuclear terrorism to provoke a war between the United States and Russia. After September the 11th, 2001, vilifying neo-Nazis was an evasion of the recent assault on America perpetrated by Islamic fundamentalists.
Okay. So before we read the next slide, I'll just say that if I'm summarizing his statement, he's saying that all Holocaust movies have changed, that in recent years, they're not Holocaust movies as we see classical Holocaust movies. They're actually action or drama or even romantic movies or war films or any other type of genre that is, yes, they're telling sometimes true, sometimes fiction stories about the Holocaust, but what actually is happening is that they've become integrated into mainstream genres. Okay? And they're no longer a part of this genre of Holocaust films. And we can see it by the fact that neo-Nazis are threatening America after 9/11, things like that, that are not actual events, but if in the past films about neo-Nazis would consider to be Holocaust films and a valid educational tool or memory tool, then now they're just movies. Okay? And now let's see what he's saying about this example.
As the Holocaust recedes into the past, the current rate of Holocaust film production probably cannot be sustained. Nevertheless, pictures that do get made can allude to a wealth of images and themes conveyed by books, educational courses, the internet, movies, museums, television, videos, and DVDs. I expect critics of my book will doubt that the public possess this level of familiarity with the events. Yet would a commercially savvy director like Bryan Singer include such plot and visual references in X-Men without checking to see whether they resonated with audience from focus group? Similarly, Anne B. Real, 2003, assumes African-American teenagers know enough about the Diary of Anne Frank to recognize why a black girl who struggles to break out of the slum on Amsterdam Avenue in New York by composing rap music identifies with Anne Frank's aspirations to become a famous writer under the most adverse conditions.
So basically what he's trying to say is that because everybody knows so much about the Holocaust anyway, then we can use it in different methods, in different ways. That might be the case in very specific audiences. And I think he's right in a very specific Eastern Coast American Jewish environment. In other audiences, I'm not sure people know so much about the Holocaust that they can look at this scene from X-Men and see it without seeing everything about it, without seeing it as the Holocaust. Because most people, I reckon, most kids that see X-Men, watch X-Men, they will be allowed to watch X-Men by their parents much earlier than they'll be allowed to watch Holocaust movies or even study about the Holocaust. The first time they'll encounter the Holocaust is from movies like this and from other movies that will use the Holocaust as a commercial tool, as he's saying, because everybody knows it. And then what's happening is where the adults already knew it, and that's why they allow themselves to use it, because it's part of today Western culture, the kids, the youth, they're becoming familiar with the Holocaust through those things. The first time they hear about the Holocaust is through Magneto. Okay, and we see a rise on Google searches. They show a statistic. Okay, every day, every month. We see every time there's an X-Men movie going out or another commercial movie that used the Holocaust, there's a rise on people Googling what the Holocaust was about. Because kids, 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds, watch a movie for the first time. They hear something about the Holocaust, and now they need to understand what's the historical timeline it's talking about. They Google it and they find out something. Okay, and by the time the school, whether it's a Jewish school or a non-Jewish school teaching the Holocaust, as they do in most Western countries, by the time they reach school, they already know and learned and heard a lot about the Holocaust, and not necessarily what we want them to hear and listen. The Holocaust, that are comparing the Holocaust to all sorts of things that are happening today, and so on and so forth. Now that's one genre. I'll go back to this in a few. I just want us to see a promo for this movie by Quentin Tarantino.
Together a special team. We're going to be doing one thing and one thing only. Killing Nazis. Yes, sir! I'm going to assume you know who we are. Everybody in the German army said you. You probably heard we ain't in the prisoner taking business. We in the killing Nazi business. Cousin, business is our boom. If you ever want to eat a sauerkraut sandwich again, so they can bang her and point out on this mountain. I want to know. I respectfully refuse. Hey, Donnie! Got a German here wants to dock the country. Oblige him.
An American Secret Service actor lives deep behind enemy lines. The Germans call them the bastards. These Yanks have been there with the devil.
We're all tickled to hear you say that.
Germans are throwing a gala premiere. In attendance would be most of the German High Command. Don't rendezvous with our double agent. She'll take it from there.
You're getting us in that premiere.
It's suicide.
What else we gonna do? Go home?
So what's the plan? Punch those goons out, take their machine guns, and then blast them.
Is that the plan?
That's about it. Or not.
There's something you don't know. Hitler is attending the premiere.
Getting whacked on Adolf makes us a horse of different colors.
We have all our rotten eggs in one basket. The objective of the operation, blow up the basket.
We'll give you a little something you can't take on.
Yeah, getting pretty good at that. You know, in the hands of the SS. My hands, to be exact.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So the idea behind this was, Quentin Tarantino said he always thought since he was a child, what will happen if a bunch of Jewish American guys with machine guns will be paratrooped into Nazi Germany and will have green light to do whatever they want, and they'll also be sort of unbeatable. And that was the movie. Now he has a long career by now, and he only did this movie in the recent years, and that's because today this movie is acceptable. Because today you can take the Holocaust and not even do a reference to it in a movie, but you can do just a fiction movie. What if this would happen? What if in the middle of the Holocaust, Jesus will resurrect. Okay, we have Christian missionary movies like that. Okay, something that was unbelievable a few years ago. That somebody that the Christian church, of course, we're not on the mainstream churches, but still, the factional church will use the Holocaust. Okay, we have Israeli movies taking an Israeli army into the Holocaust. What will happen then? Okay, all sorts of ideas that are meaningless from an historical perspective, but are creating a nice reality where the good guys win at the end, because the Holocaust is actually a bad topic for a movie. Okay, at the end everybody dies, and it doesn't really sell. So it sells, let's say, once in a while you have a really popular Holocaust movie, and you can make a lot of profit. Okay? But if you want, now we have 2, 3, 4, 5 Holocaust movies, or movies that associate themselves with the Holocaust in a summer or in a year, so each needs to find its own place. Okay? And a good way to do it is to create a different ending. An ending that is more appealing to the audience. Would you rather go to see Schindler's List or to see Inglourious, thank you. Making more sense. Inglourious Basterds, okay? Of course you want to see this movie because it's much more fun and much more amusing. And it gives you a role model you can relate to. And that's another switch that happened. And that's an important switch because today for youth that is looking at the Holocaust, and specifically Jewish youth, it's true in Israel and in North America, and I'm sure to some extent it's true in Australia and New Zealand as well, is that the Jewish hero is not the yeshiva bucha anymore, right? The Jewish hero is not even the Israeli soldier. The Jewish hero today is the athlete, or I don't know, a Jewish girl going on Beauty and the Geek, or something, things that are not connected to anything Jewish. Okay? So what do you do if you can choose between a reality show with a Jewish guy you want to see and you see that yourself in it, or a Holocaust movie? You wouldn't choose the Holocaust movie. But if you have something like this, that's more appealing. Okay? And that's when those movies become an educational tool that we can use in classroom and in informal education as well, in order to not to tell them this is the Holocaust, definitely not, because it's not, but actually telling them how, look at this movie, it's an action flick, you'd love it. They see the movie. While they're seeing the movie, most of them, not all of them, but most of them will know that's not the actual story of the Holocaust. Okay? They won't know what exactly, factually is incorrect, but they know that's not the story. But that is a starting question. That's a teaser that lures the students to come in to listen to the Holocaust and then to ask bigger questions. And after that, you can show them other movies. For example, in New Zealand, what we've done in one of the winter camps just a few months ago, this Inglourious Basterds was the opening movie. Okay, one of the shichvot, one of the age groups, theme was the Holocaust. They watched this movie in the beginning, because in New Zealand, unlike there's no Jewish high school, so Holocaust is not taught in any non-Jewish school as well. So they never actually encountered but family stories. So we started with this. They've seen this movie. Then by the next day, they were already in a stage that you can sit them in front of a documentary of 2 hours about the Holocaust. It will go out and it will disappear because it's not interesting. They need some visual connection that triggers an interest. And that interest is maybe not something we would like as people that know what the Holocaust was about, but it's something we have to use because the reality is just different. The reality is that if we wouldn't use it, that's all they'll know. Because Holocaust documentaries and Holocaust lessons and even March of the Living and things like that, those are things that can only come at a second stage today. It's no longer a first stage. It cannot be used as a first stage, and I would say even deteriorate every year in a very, very fast pace.
Can I ask you what year
Yes.
group you did this with?
What?
What year group you did this with?
I think it was 16-year-olds, 16, 17-year-olds.
Are you talking about kids who don't have a Jewish background or education? Because I
No.
can't imagine in my classroom that this would be a beginning point ever. I mean, maybe in 10, 20 years' time, but certainly not now. They're, I don't know.
That's an excellent question, and what I would say about that, with kids that already know a lot, and they're definitely out there, and they're not, a minority. I don't know if they're the majority, but they're definitely out there. We have a different problem, and that's the problem of trivializing the Holocaust. So I want to show a part of an interview they did with Quentin Tarantino after the movie in Israel. And this question that they're going to ask him now, and his answer is blowing away. I mean, I was shocked. So let's see what he said.
See, it actually is too realistic to actually watch. If I was a director in Nazi Germany, what would I do? Probably whatever they fucking told me to do.
Okay, so he's saying that, he's laughing. The audience that's in Israel is laughing, and that's understandable. If you can just turn right. Thank you. And that's understandable. The Holocaust, the Nazis have become the normal. Okay? For a kid today, to tell him, how could the Germans do it? He would say, what do you mean, how could the Germans do it? That's what you do. And not only he would say that, he would even say on himself, even Jewish kids, from a very, very Jewish background, it doesn't matter religious or not, but from a very Jewish background, even them would say, yes, I would do it, I would become a Nazi, and they wouldn't be ashamed to say it. Okay? So if in the past, maybe people thought that, and most likely people thought that. Nobody would ever say it in a public sphere, I would do whatever the Nazis would tell me to do. Nobody would say that, it's beyond belief. Okay? Today, that's the normal answer. The normal answer of, I would say, 12-year-olds up to 30-year-olds, or even 40-year-olds, would be, I would do whatever they tell me to do to save my own life. Because today, the centrality of everything is me, right? It's not about the people, it's not about humanity, it's not about liberalism or about ideology, the faith, whatever those things are, it's about me. Why should I be Jewish? How should I do this mitzvah or this? How should why should I go on birthright? Or should I go to Israel, blah, blah, blah. So it might be the same values, but I'm in the center now.
So, sorry, are you speaking about in Israel? You think Israel?
I'm speaking everywhere. I think that...
Because I cannot believe, I have never encountered that at Morocco College in all the years I've been there, and certainly not now. And I keep thinking it's going to come, but the point that we start with is their own families. Most of them have still got ties to the Holocaust. So that's the point of entry.
True.
We have issues with second stage, so after year 10, so in year 12 we revisit Holocaust looking at theology, and they're totally desensitized, they've been on much of the living, they've had the education, they're not there, it is exactly what you're saying.
Are they at the point where they say...
Yeah, they trivialize it. Totally.
Now,
I
would say more than that. Today, I wouldn't show it. I wouldn't show now. I've heard a news clip from one of the TV stations in New Zealand about what's happening in Syria now. Okay, now I'm not saying that Syria is, what's happening in Syria is the Holocaust, definitely not, but just footage for what they're showing. And in the news today, you would see naked bodies. Okay, something you wouldn't see 30 years ago in the news. Now, it's not only that, it's much more than that. Because about the Holocaust, people heard, let's say, a month after. If we want to be naive and believe that people knew, okay, outside of the occupied Europe, the people knew, let's say, a month after this, they deported the Jews, they knew that the Jews were deported, they knew where, right? Much later, when when there were genocides in Rwanda and in Yugoslavia, it was on the evening news, Okay, you can sit in your home and you can see in the morning there was a massacre, this and this amount of people that got killed. Today, it's in real time. It's in live TV. You can see those are the troops going into Homs. You see them actually, and on Facebook, you can see the these people posting, if you are against this massacre, post this. I mean, of course, it wouldn't matter anything. And they link a live footage of what's happening at that moment, how people are getting killed. Okay? When something like this is happening, and that's something that every child has access to, you cannot tell him that the Holocaust is a singular event. It loses every singularity. Because that sounds, regardless if factually it's correct or not. I'm not going into the historical debate now. But for a person that is not studying in university for 10, 15 years, to start telling him that is a singular event, it's, we are the only people, and so on and so on and so on, that sounds hypocritical. And it sounds wrong. Because he's saying, I've just seen something, just now, on my iPhone, I just saw that just now they killed 150 people, kids and children, you know, and women and so on, in Syria or in Uganda or wherever the genocide is now. Now, that brings another issue to the table, and that is, how can you teach the Holocaust when there's a genocide happening 24/7 every time in somewhere in the globe, and because we're a global village today and all that, then you always know about it. Now, what they did in the States, and that I think that's a solution, I don't know if I agree with that solution, but it's definitely a solution, is that they always link the Holocaust to the current genocide. It sounds a bit cynical, but that's what they do. Okay? If you go to the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., whenever you leave the museum, there's a station that's called the current genocide point or something like that, just like a global map. You can pick it, it's an interactive map. And then the next stage, you have to pass through it as you leave the museum, is they give you a bracelet, you know, with the color, that I am against the for genocide, or so on and so on. And you can donate this amount of dollars to it, and you can sign a petition, and so on and so on. Okay? They connect the Holocaust with something that is concrete now happening in the present tense. Not about the Holocaust survivors, but about people that are getting killed now. Now, you can debate from a Jewish perspective if that's what you want to do or not. And I'm not going into that discussion, but from a purely educational point of view, that becomes slowly and slowly mandatory. And if something is happening in Jewish education in the States 15 years ago, it's by the time it reached Israel, it's 5 years. By the time it reached the rest of the Jewish world, it's another 10 years. But that's the pace people are going to. And that's the direction people are going to. Because today you have to tie things. In Yad Vashem itself, as an institute, we brought groups from Rwanda after genocide, so they'll learn how to establish the Holocaust Museum. And that, as its own, was a marketing tool as well, and not only an educational tool, to show people it's also in real time. Trips that are going to Poland today, they always talk about what's happening now in genocides elsewhere. Okay? Now, the problem, and that's a fairly new problem, is since the Arab Spring started and we have what's happening in Syria, we have a neighboring country of Israel, which is a survivor country, right? That is not doing anything for a country that we have people being massacred. And now, I'm not going again into the political discussion. Should Israel intervene? Should it open its border for refugees or whatever? I'm not going into that at all. But it's much more difficult to explain to an Israeli kid or to an American Jewish kid, and I assume in Australia having a strong Zionist connection here, it's also in at least some of the kids' mind, why does Israel, as a survivor country, okay, as a country that was as a safe haven for Jews, we need to talk on that at behalf, when Israel itself is not doing anything on people that are getting killed now. okay? And not even going into the whole African asylum seekers and Darfur people that Israel is deporting back to Darfur. I'm not even going there because that's even much more difficult. And I'm a shaliach and I believe in Israel very much and so on. So, but those issues that we tend not to think about when we teach the Holocaust are crucially important issues. Because there are issues that are now interest the kids and the students much more when they think about the Holocaust. And it's a big shift. It's a dramatic shift. And I'm not that old, but when I was taught about the Holocaust, nobody would even imagine talking about what's happening now and how it's relating to the Holocaust as a similar event. Okay, not in Israel and not when I was in the States. But today, if you don't do that comparison, then it's meaningless. It looks hypocritical. Now, I want to finish with another scene, not from a Holocaust movie, but from The Hunger Games, which is also a nice movie.
What's it called?
The Hunger Games.
Very much
Where does this take place?
That's a fictional movie. It's in the future, 500 years from now, in North America.
A little bit of blood. Doesn't look much, just a little. Okay? Go sit down there with the little kids. I'll find you after, okay? Thanks. Thanks.
Go ahead. Thanks. Thanks.
Welcome. Happy Hunger Games. And may the odds be ever in your favor. Now, before we begin, we have a very special film brought to you all the way from the capital.
War. Terrible war. Widows, orphans, a motherless child. This was the uprising that rocked our land. 13 districts rebelled against the country that fed them, loved them, protected them. Brother turned on brother until nothing remained. And then came the peace. Hard-fought, sorely won. A people rose up from the ashes and a new era was born. But freedom has a cost, and the traitors were defeated. We swore as a nation we would never know this treason again. And so it was decreed that each year the various districts in Pan Am would offer up in tribute one young man and woman to fight to the death in a pageant of honor, courage, and sacrifice. The lone victor, bathed in riches, would serve as a reminder of our generosity and our forgiveness. This is how we remember our past. This is how we safeguard our future.
I just love that. Now, the time has come for us to select one courageous young man and woman for the honor of representing District 12 in the 74th Annual Hunger Games. As usual, ladies first. Primrose Everdeen. Where are you? Oh, come on up. I volunteer! I volunteer! I volunteer as tribute. I believe we have a volunteer. You need to get out of here. You need to get out of here. No. Go find Mom. No. Go find Mom. No.
Okay. Now this is a part of could you thank you. This is a part of the movie for those who haven't seen it or read the book, or heard about it. About the movie, there's in the distant future, North America is in a turmoil, and there's a civil war, and after that, it's divided into 13 parts, and there's a ruling part, that's the capital, and all the other needs to pay out 1 or 2 kids, one boy and one girl, and they fight, and they have to kill each other in an arena, very, very big arena. It's like Survivor, okay, the reality show, only they have to kill each other eventually, and then the last person to be alive is the winner. All the others, of course, are dead. Volunteer, instead of his little sister, she's the heroine of the movie, and she's managing to survive most of it by herself, some of it by other people that help her kill others, and so on. The notion of this movie is that you have to kill to survive. And that's the most popular movie for kids and youth in the past, I don't know, 5 years. And not to mention the books that are the most popular books since Harry Potter, and there's a TV show, and so on and so on. So there's this notion that you have to kill to survive is a notion that was coming from the present-day reality culture, that you have to win, right? And you can cheat in order to win. You can break the rules in order to win. Okay, we have a reality show, and whatever you do, if you're the winner eventually, that's what's matters, no matter what to get there. Okay, now of course we don't still yet have those kind of reality shows. Maybe, God forbid, we will someday. But that's the notion that the kids are growing up with. And this movie is taking it one step forward, and it's not a coincidence that it's so popular. Now, there are many scenes in the movie that are talking back and forth with the Holocaust, and Holocaust movies, and Noam scenes and stuff like that. But the important notion is that killing becomes trivialized. Okay? It's not shameful to be the winner if you killed someone. Okay? Even if you kill good people, because this heroine, so most of the people she killed in the arena, of course, are vicious and they're nasty and so forth. But some of them are just nice kids. But she had to do it to survive. Okay? That notion is changing paradigms that were considered everlasting since the days of Enlightenment. Okay, and we're talking a few hundreds of years. The Western society today, and it's been there's so many books written about it, is changing, and it's not necessarily putting the life in the center anymore, but the winner in the center. Okay? And it might sound not that big of a difference, but it's actually dramatic. It's quite crucial. And when you teach the Holocaust, when you go and you try to teach things about how people survived in the Holocaust, beforehand it would be unthinkable to teach about people in the Sonderkommando that had to eat corpse to survive. Those are things you would never teach in school. That you might hear when you're an adult, if you learn it in university, or if that's something that interests you, but you would never use it in schools. Today, those are things that the kids will find out themselves in Google or wherever or in Wikipedia or whatever, and that's the things that they will come into class with, even if they won't say it, because it will be embarrassing or whatever. Okay, or the class is too formal for them, or I don't know what. But they wouldn't say it. But they would still very much think it, and they would still very much have the notion that of course they had to do it. Okay? Couples were something that nobody taught. Nobody talked about. When you talk about moral values and people that had to become couples, it was something unthinkable. You wouldn't talk about those two things together. You would show it how vicious the Nazis were, that they made people do those vicious things. Today, couples are being, I wouldn't say used, but are being taught as examples of people that had to do something that is unthinkable in order to survive. And that's acceptable in classroom. That's acceptable in the youth movement. That's acceptable in the family. Okay, that's something that's not embarrassing to think about. So there are many aspects that have changed everything in the past 5 years, how we need to treat the Holocaust. And it happened before. Yes, the curriculums about the Holocaust were changed every, I don't know how many years, and people use different terms and so on. But the main notion of the Holocaust as something that is sacred up there, that you teach about, you relate to, but you don't debate with, was something that's very, very much there, since ever. In the Jewish sphere at least, if not also outside of the Jewish world. Today, it's not the case. And we, I think, as teachers and as educators, have to respond to that very quickly. Because if we are not doing that, I want to finish with a story. I had a student that they got a home assignment. They had to write something, I don't even remember what, about one of the ghettos in Eastern Europe. And it wasn't a ghetto that was taught. I tried to do it to use, all the sources and the internet and so on and so on. But it was something that we never touched in classroom. And her assignment were completely revisionist in the notion that it was, Holocaust denial. And she had no idea, because when she Googled it, that's the first site that came up. And she never thought, she imagined, okay, that's in the internet, that's got to be true, right? Because it's there. So she summarized, and her paper, and she really put effort into it. She had a copy-paste or something. She really summarized it, was about how actually this ghetto was quite fun, and there were not many Jews over there, and there weren't many people killed, and so on and so on. Now that tells us what's the danger of using the internet, right? But it also tells us what they would read anyway. And that what we need to do today is to deal with that, and not to deal with blank paper, to deal with those movies, and not to deal with concepts that maybe sadly brought our past to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.